Imagine this. You're lying in bed, in a room where only your own breath remains. The weight of a long day slowly melts away, like morning mist dissolving under sunlight. The world outside is still loud. People are still racing, still trying to prove they're strong enough, smart enough, fast enough. But perhaps what we truly lack isn't speed, it's stillness within. In this video, we'll step into the art of inner stillness, a journey to discover the quiet power that lives inside us, guided by the path of the great swordsman Miyamoto Musashi. A man who triumphed in countless life and death duels, only to realize that the strongest warrior is not the one who strikes the fastest, but the one who stays peaceful amidst chaos. Take a deep breath. Let your shoulders soften. Tonight, you don't need to fight the world. Let Musashi show you how to master the storm through the stillness of your own mind. Philosophy 1. Kaizen. The art of small progress. Imagine this. Tonight, you're sitting alone by a half-open window. Outside, the city lights are still awake. People keep rushing toward their goals, deadlines, dreams, fame, or simply the feeling that they're still moving somewhere. And maybe you've been one of them, tired, afraid of being left behind, wanting to change fast enough to keep up with the world. But if you pause, just for a moment, and take a deep breath, you'll realize there's no need to hurry. Every growth has its own rhythm, and that is where Kaizen begins. Kai means change. Zen means good or virtuous, a simple philosophy that teaches us to go slow in order to go far, to understand that true transformation is never loud. Kaizen isn't about grand breakthroughs. It doesn't ask you to become the perfect version of yourself overnight. It only asks one thing. Today, can you be just a little better than yesterday? Just a little. One kinder word, one gentler thought, one small step no one notices. Small daily improvements over time lead to stunning results. Robin Sharma. 1. The art of smallness. The Japanese hold a curious belief. They don't put their faith in breakthroughs, they believe in accumulation. After World War II, their nation lay in ruins. But instead of despairing, they rebuilt, brick by brick, door by door, detail by detail. Not through force, but through persistence. Not with grandeur, but with precision and humility. From that spirit, Kaizen was born. And it didn't just save Japan's economy, it became a way of life. They learned to wipe tables spotless, tie shoelaces neatly, weld ceramics with grace, not because anyone was watching, but because they knew. When you do the small things well, your spirit grows large. A Japanese craftsman once wiped his hammer clean every morning before work. When asked why, he simply smiled. Because the spirit lives in the details. That is Kaizen, the spirit of the craftsman, shokunin, honoring every action, no matter how small, as if it were a sacred ritual. 2. When 1% becomes magic followers of Kaizen. Love this formula. If you improve by 1% each day, by the end of a year, you'll be 37 times better than when you started. No one notices it on day 3, day 7, or even in the 6th month. But on day 365, you won't recognize yourself anymore. The power of Kaizen lies here. It doesn't promise speed, it offers faith. Success is the sum of small efforts, repeated day in and day out. Robert Collier. Every flower needs its rainy season. Every great person began with humble tasks. A Japanese bamboo spends 5 years growing roots underground before it shoots up in just a few weeks, yet no one sees the roots. Kaizen is the same. It teaches us to be patient with the invisible, because true change always starts where others can't see. 3. Stillness in action. What makes Kaizen so close to Zen is that it teaches us to be present, not just to focus on finishing a task, but to live fully within it. Like the tea master in a Japanese tea ceremony, every motion slow, rhythmic, and filled with pauses between each pour. When you are doing something, do it with all your heart. Zen proverb: Kaizen is meditation in motion. It doesn't ask you to sit still with your eyes closed. It invites you to meditate through your daily life. While folding clothes, washing dishes, or writing an email, you can train your mind. Every slower movement, every deeper breath is a lesson in stillness through action. Modern people often think meditation is a distant ritual, but truly, if you just do something one beat slower and one breath deeper, you are already practicing Kaizen. 4. Against perfectionism. Kaizen is the opposite of perfectionism. The world teaches us to be better than others. Kaizen teaches us, just be better than yourself yesterday. Perfection is not attainable, but if we chase perfection, we can catch excellence. Vince Lombardi. Perfection is an illusion, one that exhausts us because it always whispers, "You're not enough." Kaizen doesn't force you to run. It smiles and says, "Walk slowly, but don't stop." When you make mistakes, Kaizen doesn't judge. It simply asks, "Can you do it differently next time?" When you fail, Kaizen doesn't criticize. It gently reminds you, "Today, just try once more." In a world obsessed with instant results, Kaizen is the art of those who dare to wait, because they understand that every flower needs darkness to bloom. 5. Kaizen and the psychology of healing. If you've ever felt burnt out trying to change your whole life, lose weight, learn new skills, start over, Kaizen is the softest, most sustainable medicine. Because it doesn't ask you to turn the page of your life, it only asks you to write one new line. Psychologists call this micro-progress. When you take a small action, your brain records that success and releases a gentle wave of dopamine, making you feel you're on the right path. That feeling sustains you. It keeps you from burning out. Kaizen, therefore, is not just a life philosophy. It's a modern therapy for healing. It teaches you to be kind to yourself. Not everyone can change the world, but everyone can tidy their own room, drawer by drawer, corner by corner, thought by thought, chain by chain within the heart. 6. Stillness in motion. Every drop shapes the ocean. Musashi once wrote, "You must understand that there is more than one path to the top of the mountain." Miyamoto Musashi. The Book of 5 Rings. Kaizen is another path up the mountain, not through battle, but through patience. You don't need to fight, just keep going. Every drop of water that falls steadily, no matter how small, can carve a valley. One day, while washing dishes, notice how water flows through your hands. It doesn't struggle, it doesn't resist, it just flows. Yet it can wear down stone. That is the essence of Kaizen, the gentle strength of persistence. 7. The lesson of the craftsman and the living soul. The Japanese have a phrase, ichigo ichie, once in a lifetime. It reminds us that every moment is unique and unrepeatable. Each time you brew tea, listen to music, or speak with someone, it is a one-time meeting between two souls in the universe. When you understand this, you'll want to live slower, do everything with fuller presence. You'll realize that progress isn't about moving fast. It's about going deep. Kaizen teaches us to be present, not hurried, not scattered, because only when you are truly present in every action, every breath, every second, are you truly alive. 8. Your journey. No need to rush. Perhaps tonight you're listening to these words as the lights dim. Maybe you've just come through a long, tiring day. Maybe you're still asking yourself, when will I become the person I want to be? Kaizen answers softly, it's okay. As long as today you're a little better than yesterday. If tonight you've listened, breathed slower, and forgiven yourself even for a moment, that's enough. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Lao Tzu. Just one step, one small change, one deep breath. That is Kaizen. A candle flickers, yet even when it goes out, it still lights the path to your rest. Just like every small act you make today, though unseen, adds to your light. Let change come slowly. Let your life bloom like cherry blossoms, not by schedule, but by season. Perhaps tonight, you don't need to fix anything. Just breathe. Just trust that 1% more each day is enough to begin a new life. Take a deep breath. Let the sounds outside fade away. You don't need to run. Just keep moving forward. One gentle step, one kind act, one tender thought at a time. Because Kaizen isn't a philosophy to understand. It's a philosophy to breathe. And if you listen long enough, you may realize, in every moment you slow down, a world is quietly changing from within. Philosophy 2. Musashi. The way of walking alone. The way of the Ronin. If Kaizen teaches us about day-by-day progress, slow and steady like ripples spreading across water, then Musashi is the night wind that blows the dust off the soul. Kaizen speaks of movement. Musashi speaks of stillness within movement. One side says, improve yourself bit by bit. The other says, face yourself to the very end. And perhaps, to truly practice Kaizen, we must learn the art of walking alone, the path Miyamoto Musashi walked. 1. The journey of the masterless man. Long ago in Japan, there was a man who refused to bow to any lord. He lived by his sword, yet the better he became, the less he used it. His name was Miyamoto Musashi, 1584 to 1645. People called him the greatest swordsman in Japan. But he believed victory wasn't about defeating an opponent. It was about conquering oneself. After more than 60 life-and-death duels without a single defeat, Musashi withdrew from glory and chose a life of seclusion in the mountains. He painted, he wrote, he meditated, and in that stillness, he left behind 2 masterpieces. The Book of 5 Rings, a book on strategy that is, in truth, a way of seeing life, and Dokodo, the way of walking alone. 21 principles for a free soul. You must understand that there is more than one path to the top of the mountain. Miyamoto Musashi, the Book of 5 rings. That line is a reminder. There is no single common road to happiness. Each of us must climb our own mountain with our own feet and our own breath. 2. The true victor is the one who can be silent. Once, a student asked Musashi, "Master, how can I defeat every opponent?" He replied, "Perceive that which cannot be seen with the eye." The Book of 5 Rings. Understand what cannot be seen. Victory isn't in moves or techniques. It lies in the state of the mind holding the sword. A panicked mind makes the blade tremble. A calm mind, then even a simple motion is enough to end the duel. Musashi called this state mushin, no mind. Not emptiness, but freedom from noise. Not ruled by fear, desire, or the applause of the crowd. When your mind is still, your actions become naturally perfect. Like breathing, you don't have to think, "I'm breathing." It simply happens. That is mushin, the state of pure action. 3. Discipline is freedom. Musashi's paradox. It sounds contradictory, doesn't it? A masterless man who speaks so much about discipline. But to Musashi, freedom isn't doing whatever you want. It's no longer being a slave to your wants. Do nothing which is of no use. Dokodo, the way of walking alone. A short sentence that touches the root of self-mastery. When you keep only what's essential, you begin to see clearly what truly matters. And in that simplification, freedom appears. Freedom isn't expansion, it is letting go. Like cleaning a room packed with clutter, you finally find space to breathe. Musashi cleaned his inner room, thought by thought, habit by habit, fear by fear. He turned his life into an experiment in stillness within motion. 4. Walking alone is not loneliness. Some fear being alone because they think silence is a sign of emptiness. Musashi believed the opposite. In Dokodo, he wrote, "Accept everything just the way it is. Do not fear death. Do not seek pleasure for its own sake." 3 layers of letting go: reality, fear, desire. When you stop trying to force the world to please you, you begin to touch peace. When you no longer fear loss, you finally dare to live truthfully. When you stop chasing pleasure, you begin to feel a pure joy, the joy of simply being. The walking alone Musashi speaks of isn't cutting yourself off from the world. It is returning to yourself. Like standing in a forest, turning off every noise, and suddenly hearing your own heartbeat. That isn't loneliness. That is the moment you realize you are alive. 5. The journey to stillness in motion. Musashi didn't choose to sit quietly in a monastery. He practiced meditation on the battlefield, in storms, amidst an unstable rhythm of life. For him, stillness wasn't about place, it was about mind. In battle, if you make your opponent flinch, you have already won. The Book of 5 Rings. That line isn't only about combat, it's about living. If change doesn't make you flinch, you've won. If other people's words don't shake you, you've won. If you keep a slow breath in the storm of deadlines, you've won. This is the art of inner stillness. Musashi's way is how we can exist amid modern chaos. When everything around you moves too fast, only the one who can pause sees the path. 6. Musashi, the teacher of inner discipline. In Dokodo, there's a line many ponder for a lifetime. Resentment and complaint are appropriate neither for oneself nor others. No lamenting, no blaming, no excuses, because complaint weakens us. A true warrior doesn't need to be understood. They only need to know where they are going. Musashi wasn't a hero basking in crowds. He had no fans, no media channel, no brand to build. He simply lived his essence, a practitioner. Every brushstroke, every line, every strike was training the mind. That unity between doing and being is what made him great. Today, we speak of self-mastery. Musashi lived it 400 years ago. No guru, no course, just discipline and stillness. 7. Lessons for the modern human. In today's noisy world, we're surrounded by countless masters, work, social media, fame, the gaze of others. We live like puppets, needing someone to pull the strings to feel alive. Musashi, in contrast, cuts the strings. He chooses no master, no one controls him, not even his own ego. Because the ego can be the harshest master of all. He teaches us to return to inner freedom. Don't let the world define your worth. Don't let noise bend your heart's compass. Don't let fear make you abandon your path. To win any battle, you must fight as if you are already dead. Miyamoto Musashi. This doesn't glorify violence. It reminds us, only when you no longer fear loss do you truly live. Only when you release the need for safety can you touch true peace. 8. Code of Honor. A Ronin's way of life. Musashi had no imposed laws, but he had a way. He had no formal religion, but he had conviction. Each morning he trained body and mind like a ritual. No one forced him, no one praised him. He did it because that was how he stayed authentic. We often think freedom means no discipline. In truth, discipline keeps us from chaos. Musashi understood this. He walked alone, yet never lost his way, because he carried a code of honor he wrote for himself. Imagine this. If you set 3 non-negotiable principles for your life, how different would you live? Maybe, always tell the truth, or never betray myself, or simply, always do what is useful. Musashi said, "The ultimate aim of martial arts is not having to use them. The ultimate aim of martial arts isn't to fight, it's not needing to fight. Likewise, the aim of discipline isn't to imprison, it's to set you free. When the mind is steady enough, you don't need to prove anything." 9. Walking alone as a form of healing. Musashi spent years living in a cave at Iwato, with only a brush, a notebook, and his breath. Not because he feared people, but because he wanted to meet himself. In solitude, he realized, solitude is not the absence of people. It is the presence of yourself. Modern life is always connected, yet we rarely connect with ourselves. We fear being alone because we fear hearing our inner voice. We fear silence because we fear seeing the emptiness. But only when we sit still long enough do we see that the essence of peace isn't in having more, but in acceptance. Perhaps you too, like Musashi, have stood at crossroads, unsure which path to take. Maybe you live in a noisy city with a job and social media, yet sometimes feel you belong nowhere. Musashi would smile and say, "It's okay. No one belongs everywhere. What matters is, do you belong to yourself? Remember, walking alone isn't escape. Walking alone is daring to stay with yourself when there's no applause, no spotlight, no guide. That is when you begin to grow up. A candle flickers in the cave. Musashi lit it to illuminate the final pages of Dokudo. He knew death was near, yet his hand was steady, his letters even, his heart clear. He didn't ask to be remembered. He only wished to leave the light of stillness. More than 4 centuries have passed, and that light has not gone out. It glows in each person learning to walk alone, to be silent, to live truthfully. It may be you listening to these words on a weary night. Perhaps tonight you don't need to fix anything. No need to prove. No need to fight. Just breathe. Let your shoulders soften. And remember, freedom isn't far away. It's within you, waiting for you to be still enough to see it. Today is victory over yourself of yesterday. Tomorrow is your victory over lesser men. Miyamoto Musashi. Take a deep breath. The universe does not demand perfection. It only asks you to be brave enough to keep going, even on the solitary path, because sometimes we are not born to be led, but to find our own way. If Musashi teaches us the strength of discipline and stillness in solitude, then Wabi-Sabi teaches us to love life's very imperfection. After battles, after years of walking alone, when the sword is set down and the world grows quiet, we realize perhaps the next lesson is not mastery, but acceptance. In the end, each of us is like a clay vessel fired by flame, marked by cracks, chips, and colors no longer pristine. Yet it is through those very cracks that light begins to enter. That is Wabi-Sabi, the beauty of imperfection. Philosophy 3. Wabi-Sabi, the beauty of imperfection. 1. Where stillness begins long ago, in a small garden in Kyoto, a Zen master brewed tea for his guests. Before the ceremony, he carefully swept every fallen leaf and wiped every stone step clean. But when everything was flawless, he quietly shook a branch so a few leaves would drift down. When a student asked why, he smiled. Perfection robs the soul of the moment. And that is the beginning of Wabi-Sabi, the Japanese philosophy born from Zen and the tea ceremony, where we learn to honor the imperfect, the incomplete, the unfinished. Not everything beautiful is polished. Sometimes beauty lives in the worn, the faded, the simple. Like moonlight on a cracked wall, like a teacup with a chipped handle that still releases its fragrance. 2. Beauty in the crack. If you've heard of kintsugi, you understand the spirit of Wabi-Sabi. Kintsugi is the art of mending broken pottery with gold, not hiding the cracks, but honoring them. Golden seams swirl across the surface like noble scars, telling the story of that object's survival. The wound is the place where the light enters you. Rumi. A crack is no longer a flaw. It becomes testimony to time, endurance, and survival. Wabi-Sabi teaches us to look at ourselves the same way. The hurts in our hearts, the mistakes we've made, the fragments of our past, they need not be hidden. They are part of the story, the marks that make us real and deep. Think of the people you once loved, the dreams left unfinished, the times you fell and stood back up. Each crack, seen through Wabi-Sabi eyes, is a stroke of gold shining in your soul. 3. Impermanence, the nature of all things. Wabi-Sabi rests on 3 foundations. Impermanence, everything changes, nothing lasts forever. Imperfection, Nothing is flawless. Simplicity, true beauty lives in the unadorned. The Japanese say, everything is temporary, just like the cherry blossoms. Cherry blossoms burst into glory for a brief moment and then fall. It is precisely their brevity that makes them heartbreakingly beautiful. Likewise, we feel the worth of a hug, a quiet afternoon, a small word of kindness when we know everything will pass. In Zen, this is mono no aware, the gentle ache that arises when we recognize the beauty of the fleeting. We don't resist change. We greet it with a smile, accepting each season of life as it comes. 4. When we stop trying to be perfect. There's a strange thing. The harder we try to be perfect, the more inadequate we feel. Modern society is obsessed with standards. Skin must be smooth, careers must soar, homes must shine, life must brim with energy. But Wabi-Sabi says, when you stop trying to be perfect, you become real. What's most beautiful in a person is their authenticity. Wrinkles, tears, and silences included. Wabi-Sabi doesn't ask us to abandon effort. It asks us to abandon the illusion of completeness. Only when we accept our imperfections do we begin to live truthfully. Remember the last time you laughed at yourself after messing something up. In that moment, you stopped straining, stopped pretending. You were simply yourself. That is a Wabi-Sabi moment. Beautiful, because it's real, fragile, and unforced. 5. Simplicity, the doorway to peace. Wabi-Sabi is also the spirit of simplicity, a room without too many things. A warm cup of tea on a rainy afternoon, a conversation without pretense. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Leonardo da Vinci. Simplicity isn't lack, it's enough. When we set down what's excessive, objects, relationships, expectations, we make space for peace to enter. Wabi-Sabi teaches us to notice beauty in small things. Morning light on an old wall, the sound of water boiling, the way tea's warmth breathes through a room. Nothing grand. Yet within this simplicity, there is a soft luminance no luxury can rival. 6. From the crack in things to the crack in the heart. Imagine you drop a vase you love. It shatters. First comes regret, then self-blame, then the urge to throw it away. But if you have it mended with gold, every fracture becomes a bright contour. The vase is still a vase, but now it's more beautiful because it carries the story of time. So it is with us. When the heart breaks, don't rush to hide it. Let light pass through the fissures, for the place you hurt the most is the very place light can enter. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. Leonard Cohen, 7. Healing through acceptance. Modern people are exhausted from trying to fix themselves endlessly, yet never feeling enough. Wabi-Sabi is a gentle reminder. It's okay. You don't have to fix everything. Sometimes, simply sitting still, breathing, and accepting that you're not okay today is already a step forward. Wabi-Sabi doesn't try to make you happy. It teaches you to be at peace with what is. If you're sad today, be sad. If you're tired, allow yourself to rest. Like autumn, it doesn't try to become spring. It simply lets its leaves fall with grace. To be content with little is difficult. To be content with much, impossible. Marie von Ebner. Eschenbach, 8. Wabi-Sabi, a philosophy of kindness. Perhaps Wabi-Sabi's greatest gift isn't in art, but in how we treat one another. When we understand everyone has cracks, we become gentler. When we know each person is mending themselves with their own gold, we stop judging. The person who seems cold today may simply be covering an old wound. The friend who has gone quiet may just need room to breathe. Seen through Wabi-Sabi eyes, no one is truly broken. They are learning how to continue living. Wabi-Sabi also reminds us to be present. When you look at a withered flower, instead of lamenting that it's no longer fresh, you can see the beauty of its faded petals. When you revisit a memory, instead of blaming it for passing too quickly, you can be grateful that it came at all. The meaning of life is just to be alive. It is so plain and so obvious and so simple. Alan Watts. Life doesn't need to glitter to be meaningful. It only asks that you be here, fully, honestly, and tenderly with each moment. Perhaps tonight, you don't need to try to be someone else. You don't need to strain to be better. Just sit quietly, listen to your heart, and smile at all that's imperfect within you. Because it is precisely those small flaws and unfinished edges that make you more human, more beautiful, more true. A candle flickers, yet even when it goes out, it still lights the path to your rest. So it is with life. Though brief, it can be warm to the very end if we accept it wholly. Wabi-Sabi is not a philosophy to understand. It is an art of living slowly and loving the imperfect. For in the end, everything will pass, even the brightest stars. But when we can love both light and shadow, when we mend our cracks with kindness, this life, fragile as it is, becomes complete in its own way. Take a deep breath. Set down the urge to be perfect. And remember, you don't need to be a flawless copy. You only need to be the version of yourself that's learning to heal. When we've learned from Musashi how to stand firm in chaos, and from Wabi-Sabi how to love what's imperfect, one question still quietly lingers. If life is a long journey, and we must walk through impermanence, what makes us want to wake up each morning? That is when Ikigai appears, not as a distant philosophy, but as a gentle breath leading us back to the meaning of living. Philosophy 4. Ikigai, the reason for living 1. Dawn in the mind. On the island of Okinawa, where people are known to live long and happy lives, mornings begin not with an alarm clock, but with a small reason to rise. One tends to a garden, another cooks breakfast for a neighbor, someone else plays the shamisen on the porch. For them, every morning is worth living. That reason has a name: Ikigai, the reason for being. Or simply, the reason you wake up each morning. Only staying active will make you want to live 100 years. Japanese proverb. Ikigai is not a grand dream, not a distant goal, nor a call to be greater than others. It's the small but meaningful joy that makes you want to live one more day. It could be making someone smile, caring for a plant, or simply watching the first light of dawn touch the earth. 2. The intersection of 4 circles. The Japanese say that Ikigai lies at the intersection of 4 things: what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, what you can be paid for. When these 4 circles overlap, you find the balance between meaning and existence. Not all of us find that center right away. Sometimes we spend years circling one or two of the rings, doing what we're good at but don't love, or loving something no one needs. That's why many feel empty, even when they seem to have everything. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. Friedrich Nietzsche. When you know why you exist, every how becomes lighter. When you lose that why, life, no matter how busy, feels hollow. 3. The illness of the modern age. We live in an era of abundance and exhaustion. Phones always glowing, work always calling. Goals always demanding, yet rarely do we feel content. That's why more and more people suffer from an invisible sickness, living without a reason to live. We wake, work, eat, sleep, repeat, without knowing what we're moving toward. It's not weakness, it's the absence of an anchor. Ikigai is that anchor. It doesn't stop the waves, but it keeps you from drifting away. 4. The power of small things. An old woman in Okinawa was once asked, "What's your secret to a long life?" She smiled and said, "My Ikigai is my garden. I get up to talk to my plants." Not philosophy, not fame, just a small garden. But that connection gave her purpose, because Ikigai doesn't live in grand achievements. It lives in what you do with love. If you feel lost, don't chase something big. Start with something small that makes you feel alive. Brew a cup of tea. Read a few pages. Write down 3 things you're grateful for. As Ikigai, the Japanese secret to a long and happy life says, "The key to longevity is to find your Ikigai and never retire." When you live with Ikigai, you stop counting years. You start counting days worth living. 5. Balance, not pressure. The beauty of Ikigai is that it never rushes you. It doesn't demand achievement or perfection. It invites you to explore, adjust, and evolve. Ikigai is like a patient friend. You can change it many times in your life, and that's perfectly okay. Today, your reason might be work. Tomorrow, it might be family. Another day, it might simply be inner peace. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step. Martin Luther King Jr. Ikigai doesn't ask you to see the full path, just to begin walking. Sometimes, the very act of searching for meaning becomes meaning itself. 6. When motivation becomes natural. There's a subtle difference between forcing and flowing. When you do what you love and it feels useful, energy doesn't need to be created. It flows naturally. You don't have to push yourself every morning. Your purpose gently pulls you up. Flow is being completely involved in an activity for its own sake. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, flow. That state of flow, when time dissolves and only pure action remains, is the living expression of Ikigai. It's when you feel, "This is what I'm meant to do." And that sense of rightness doesn't come from logic, but from the quiet resonance of your heart. 7. Finding Ikigai in everyday life. Imagine waking each morning with this question: what's the smallest thing I can do today to make life a little better? Maybe you help someone cross the street. Maybe you simply say, "Thank you." These actions won't change the world, but they change you. And when you change, your world shifts with you. The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away. Pablo Picasso. Ikigai is the moment you recognize the gift you bring to life. It could be a voice that soothes others, hands that create beauty, or a heart that listens amid the noise. 8. Ikigai and healing from within. When you lose your way, don't look for meaning in logic. Listen to your body, your emotions, your breath. Whatever warms your heart, that's worth following. Ikigai doesn't ask you to be perfect. It only asks that you be present. Don't aim for success if you want it. Just do what you love and believe in, and it will come naturally. David Frost. That's why Ikigai is considered a remedy for modern emptiness. When you have a reason to live, you no longer need to heal, because the very act of living becomes the healing itself. And so, our journey tonight comes to an end. From the small steps of Kaizen, to the solitary path of Musashi, to learning to love imperfection through Wabi-Sabi, and finally finding Ikigai, the reason we wish to rise each morning. Each philosophy is a candle, and together their light is enough to brighten a long, quiet night. Perhaps you don't need to change everything. Just remember, each day lived with a little stillness, a little acceptance, and a little gratitude brings you closer to yourself. Now, let your thoughts drift, like waves returning to the shore, dissolving into the night. Take a deep breath. Release your shoulders. There's nothing to fix, nothing to force. Everything is already okay. Close your eyes. The universe moves quietly, and tonight it will keep you safe. If you wish to continue this journey, join me in the next video. Musashi's 5 unseen enemies, and how he defeated them without a sword. It's the next chapter, gentle, deeper, and even stiller. Remember to follow and support the channel so that each night you and I can walk a little further together on this quiet path back home to inner peace.